Hey everyone, welcome back to Wix Fix. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Ryan and today's video is another episode of our series called Fix Your Wix. In this series, I take one of your websites and I redesign the homepage for fun and educational purposes. If you would like to participate in a future episode of this series, I will leave a link in the description to a form that you can fill out. For today's video, we're going to be designing the homepage for a website or a company that designs cakes and offers really cool dessert packages or dessert treats for people in Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, in that area. And we're going to be taking it and making it look like this. Let's go ahead and get started. For this first section up here, what we're going to want to do is make this 100% the height of our user's device. To do that, we're going to come over to size, click this three dots, press advanced sizing. Perfect. Now what we can do is come over to height and we can set this section to be 100 VH, just like that. Fantastic. For this section, I want to set the background color to black. Then what I want to do is add a container and we'll stretch this container. And just for fun, we will make this section like this orange, and we can even lower the opacity to like 50% maybe. Perfect. Then if we come back up to add, go to media, and we can come down to video box, and we can just drag one of these out into the section. And of course we can stretch it. Now let's go ahead and change the video real quick. I think I looked up bakery, or maybe I looked up cake. Yeah, there we go. I looked up this one right here. It's called cupcakes, and we'll go ahead and update it. Now I want the background to show a little bit. So what we're going to do is scroll down to adjust, and under opacity, let's set this to like 40%. So now we have the black and the orange kind of peeking through the video a little bit, and it looks pretty clean. Under behaviors, let's go ahead and click on that. We want the video to play automatically. We don't want there to be a pause option. When it ends, we want it to loop, and just for fun, we'll make sure that no sound is enabled. Perfect. In this area here, I want to add a logo. So what we're going to do is go to media, scroll up to the top, press show more, and we'll add this to the page. Perfect. Let's resize it like this, and then we will make it a little bit bigger, and we'll just center it. Perfect. Inside of this section here, I want to add two buttons. So what we're going to do is copy the button from the header. And this is just a basic button. I really didn't do anything to it other than change the background color to this right here. So we're going to have one say custom cakes. And for this one right here, we'll say order desserts. Perfect. Now what I want to do is grab both of these buttons. We will stack them together. Then we'll center the stack, bring it up a little bit, and then we'll grab the logo and we'll stack these together as well. Now I do want to adjust the space in here a little bit. So let's do like 12. I think that's good. And we'll just make sure that the stack is completely centered inside of this section. Perfect. Now, if we take a look at the website over here, the next section we have is some of her bullet points kind of listed out. So what we're going to do is add a brand new section. For this section, we'll make the background kind of like a light pink. There we go. Inside of this, we're going to want to add a repeater. So we're going to come over to add. We'll do a quick add. We'll do a repeater. Fantastic. Once the repeater is added, let's go ahead and add an item and we'll stretch it just like that. And then over here in the layout tab for the repeater, we're going to say number of items. We'll set this to 4. Perfect. We'll also go ahead and click on the item itself and remove the background color because we don't want that. Inside of this, we're going to want to have an icon and some text. So we're going to come over to add. We'll go decorative. We'll just grab this star out for now. For this star, I don't want it to be responsive, so I'm just going to set this over to fixed. And then let's set the size to like 48. Something like that should do. And we'll also change the color to something a little bit darker. Fantastic. And we'll move it right about there and add some text. Go to add text, and let's do like a heading 6. Now for this text element, for responsive behavior, we'll set this to hug. And what hug does is it gets rid of all that extra space that we are not using. Then we will move this right here next to the icon. We'll select both of these and stack them. Perfect. And now we can go ahead and change out the content real quick. And once we're done changing all of the content here, what we can do is grab the item and remove the height. Then we can grab this section itself and we'll also remove the height here. Perfect. So now what I want to do is with this stack selected here, let's go ahead and center it. Okay. And we'll come down to margins. We'll see we have a 5.4. So let's go ahead and apply that to the bottom as well, 5.4%. And now we should be left with something that looks like this. Fantastic. And also, I think this is getting a little bit close to the edge. So what I might do is with this repeater selected, let's add maybe 5% margin to the right. There we go. Maybe we can even get away with 4. Okay, that should do. Now we can move on to the next section. And this section is just going to be for some seasonal items that she may offer. So let's go ahead and make this pretty large. We'll make this like 800 pixels. There we go. And if my recording seems laggy, I do apologize. I think because I'm recording and a video is playing, it's causing this to kind of freak out a little bit. So I'm going to try to go into behaviors and turn this to on click. There we go. It's still playing. Oh well, we will move on. For this next section, what we're going to do first is split this into 2 columns just by selecting the cell option here. So you'll notice that it's basically split in half. Perfect. For the gap, I want to set this to 5 VW. And then for padding, we're going to set this to 5% and we will apply this to all sides. So now we should have something that looks like this. In the left-hand side, we're going to add an image. So let's come over to add, go to media, and we'll select our image here. We'll resize it a bit, place it in the right grid cell, send it to the top left, and let's go ahead and expand this till it hits the edge of the cell. Perfect. And then for the corners, let's set this to like 48, and that's going to give it a nice rounded edge. Perfect. Now what I want to do over here is actually add some text. So we're going to have a heading 6 here. This text is going to say seasonal. So what we're going to do is set the font to Icaros regular. We're going to set the font color to be this orange. We want it to be a little bit bigger. So let's do like 28. I think that'll do. And for the responsive behavior, we will set this to hug and we'll just send it to the left. Fantastic. Underneath that, we're going to want to have a heading 2. So we'll drag this out right here. And what we're going to say is prepare for Thanksgiving. Now I am recording this in mid-October, but I do think this will release on YouTube closer to Thanksgiving. So I'm just going to kind of prep this video as if it's a Thanksgiving episode. But what we're going to do is change this font to Butler, and we're going to make this pretty big. I think we're going to try like 120. Let's see what that looks like. All right, that's overkill. Let's do like 90. Okay. I think that's still pretty big. Let's try like 64. Let's try 72. I think that'll do. So what we're going to do with this text element, similar to what we did before, is we're going to set this to hug, and we're going to align this to the left, and we'll move it underneath the other one. Fantastic. Next thing we're going to have is just a simple paragraph text. For this paragraph design, I do want to lighten the color by selecting a gray. We'll send it to the left, and we'll move it underneath the heading text. And the last thing that we're going to add is just a button. So I'm just going to copy this button from up here. I'm going to paste it down here, and we're going to change the text to view menu. Now with this button, we're just going to move it right underneath the paragraph text. We're going to grab all of these elements here and stack them together. And what I want to do is center this stack here in this grid cell. And then we'll grab the section and we will remove the height. So now the only thing controlling the height of the section is basically this image here. And I think this looks really clean. For the next section, we're going to kind of promote her cake jars. So I do want this to be a pretty long section. Let's do like 900 pixels for now. Let's grab some text. Let's do like a heading 2 for now. We'll change this text to cake jars. And I want to do all caps for this. We will set the responsive behavior to hug. And I think let's do like 180 in size. We'll choose our Icarus font. And we're going to choose a very light color here. Perfect. So now what I want to do is go ahead and just center this text and we will move it up slightly. Fantastic. Let's grab this button. We'll copy it. And I just want to paste it right here and slightly move it to above this text element slightly. Now I want to show off 2 of her cake jar options. So we're gonna come over to add, we'll go media, show more, and I'm gonna grab this option right here. Now this option is a JPEG file, which means it has a background color or background image. So to remove that, I'm gonna go to settings, press adjust, and then in this photo studio, we're gonna go to cutout and auto cutout. And I will say an image like this where the background is very obvious, it does a fantastic job at cutting it out and leaving the subject. So then we can go ahead and press save. And once the image updates, we're gonna move it right about here and we're gonna put it slightly above where it says cake jars. Now let's go ahead and add another image. And I'm just gonna add this one right here. I've already done the cutout process for this one, but we're gonna move this one right over here. And let's actually make this image slightly smaller to match the size of this other one. And for this image over here, let's slightly rotate it. There we go. Now what I want to do is have some text that points to these and basically tells the user what flavor that is. So what I'm going to do is grab this text element here, going to copy it, come down here and paste it. Now we do not need this to be this large. So I'm going to set this to be like 28 in size. I think that's good. And for this left one, it's called cookie butter. And I'm going to move this right about here. And then I'm going to copy and paste this text, move it right about here. And this one is called vanilla bean. So I'm going to edit the text and type that in. Great. Now we need arrows. So what we're going to do is come over to add, come over to decorative, and we'll say more arrows. We'll scroll until we find one that we like. And I think I used this one, so we'll go ahead and use this one as well. Now I do want to change the orientation. So what I'm gonna do is come over to adjust and use this flip vertically option here. And we'll also resize it quite a bit and move this down. Perfect. Let's copy and paste it. And now we want to flip horizontally to flip it around. And we'll move it right about here. And we'll move the text slightly. Perfect. Now this section is mostly done, but the only other thing I want to do is kind of animate this text slightly. We don't want the interaction to be too crazy and too obvious. We just want it to be a nice subtle movement here. So what we're going to do is grab this text, head on over to the interactions tab, go down to scroll, and we're going to add a scroll interaction. We don't want the animation path to move to its design. I want this to be the starting location, but not the end location. So we want the animation path to move from its design. And like I just said, we want it to move. So what we're going to say is move, and we're going to press adjust animation. I want the animation angle to be 0. I want the distance to only move like 100 pixels. And I want the animation area to be the entire area here. So as soon as it's in view, it's going to move slightly up, just so it kind of gives it that nice kind of parallax feel. Perfect. Now we can slightly adjust the height of the section just to right about there. For the next section, it's going to be pretty similar to this one up here. So what I'm going to do is just copy and paste it. And you can see it put it over the section we just created. We can easily change that by heading over to the layers panel and dragging this under. Perfect. And for this one, I want the orientation to be the other way around. So what I'm going to do is grab this cell over here. I'm going to shift click and grab this one, and we can easily just swap them. Perfect. Now I do think this image over here is going to be a bit taller. So if I head over to the design tab, maybe we can set this to like 800 pixels. And let's go ahead and change the image here. For this image, it's going to be this cake right here. And I'm going to expand this down a little bit to show more of the cake. Perfect. And I'm just going to change the text out real quick. I'm going to grab the stack and unstack it. Then I'm going to change this button to say order now. Let's copy and paste this button. We'll move it right here and we'll expand it a little bit. And we're going to change this one to say more information. Now for this design, I want the background color to be white. I want the border to be our accent color, just 1 pixel width. And we'll grab the text and make this the color as well. Perfect. So now that gives people the option to either order right away, or if they need more information to learn about her business and stuff like that, they can do that pretty easily. So we'll grab both of these buttons so we create a horizontal gap or horizontal stack. Then we're going to grab all of the other elements here and we're going to stack these together. Perfect. And then we'll just center this element just like that. Fantastic. And the last section that we are going to be building here on the website is just going to be a nice call to action. For now, I want to set the height to like 700 pixels. It's not going to end up being this large, but what I want to do is set the background color to this light orange color. We'll go up to add, quick add, and we'll just grab this container. Now for this container, I do want the width to be like a percentage. So I'm going to turn on advanced sizing and we'll set the width to 90%. We'll center it and send it to the top. We'll also make the background color white and we'll make it quite a bit taller. And for the corners, let's round the edges similar to the images. So we'll set it to 48. Great. Now inside of this, I do want there to be a grid. So let's go ahead and apply a CSS grid. We're going to split this into 2 parts. So we have a left and right area. Let's set the gap to 5 VW. And then let's also add some padding. And I believe for this, I did 7.5% and I added it to all sides. I think that's a bit too extreme actually. Let's do 5%. Okay, I think that looks good. Inside of this, we're going to add a container. We're going to stretch it. And for this, we're going to set the background to white. We're going to add 1 pixel border, but we're going to make the opacity like 20%. And for the corners, we're going to set this to 24. The reason we are doing 24 here is because 24 is half of 48. So if I set both of these to 48 as an example, and I click off of it, it doesn't quite look right. It doesn't look like they fit together very nicely. So a trick I've learned is just to set this to 24, and it almost looks like they could fit up against each other very nicely. Inside of this, I want to add another CSS grid. We'll split this into a 1x2 grid, just like this, and we'll also add some padding here. I think here is maybe where I used the 7.5%. Yes, it is. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that to all sides. Perfect. And we'll also come over here and add like a 5 VW grid gap here as well. For this top one, we're just going to have an image. So I'm going to drag this out, place it here and stretch it. And for the corners here, we're going to set this to 12. Because again, we're using that same technique we used for this container and this container. So it looks like they look a little bit cleaner here. And then down here, we're going to have some text and a button. So for this text element, I'm just going to grab like a heading 6, place it in here. We're going to set the responsive behavior to hug, send it to the left, and we'll change this to desserts and treats. And we're also going to change the font to our Icarus regular. Now we need an order button. So I'm just going to grab this, copy it, come down here and paste it. I'm going to send this to the top right. And then for this one right here, I'm just going to send it to the left and middle. Now we can actually grab the container itself, come over to the rows. And for this bottom row, we're going to set this to minimum content. And then for the top row, I think I did 15.6 VW. So it's just a little bit taller. Now what I want to do is grab this main container and we're just going to set the row height to minimum content. So now we should see something that looks like this. And I will say this grid gap here is a little extreme. So maybe we'll do like 2.5. Okay, I think that looks really good like that. And just for fun, let's change the image out really quickly. Then we're going to grab this container right here. We're going to copy it and we're going to bring it over to the right hand side and press paste. Then we're going to stretch this one so it looks like this. And this one is going to be custom orders. Perfect. And we'll change out the image real quick. Then we'll grab the container and set this top row back to 15.6 VW. And now we're going to grab the main container here and we're going to add 5% margin on the top, and we'll also add that to the bottom. Then we'll grab the section itself and just remove the height. So now if we come all the way up to the top of the website and press preview, here is the Cakes by Aneisha website built here inside of Wix Studio. Well, that's basically gonna wrap it up for today's video. If you all did enjoy, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel for more Wix Studio content coming out really soon. Thank you all again, and I will see you on the next one.